Christianity. Some of them you can't put a name to, but there's still a belief system there. It's just Bobbyanity or Karenianity, but it's still a belief system. For me, the question would be, does it correspond to reality? Is it true? If it's not, then it will probably end up damaging you. So I think everyone adheres to a belief system. Yeah.
Okay. My question is, to what degree will someone be happy after they die, whether they do or don't hold to your belief systems?
Okay. I think I get the question. So the question is, to what extent will people be happy after they die if they don't hold to...
Or if they do or don't.
If they do or they don't.
Yeah.
Hold to...
For each. So if someone... so for example, from an atheist perspective, like if someone is an atheist or isn't an atheist, how happy will they be after they die?
It's each one's view on the eternal perspective of happiness.
As a Christian, I've probably got a bit to say about after we die, whereas it might be harder for Joseph.
Sorry.
Yeah. I think the Bible is unashamed about saying that we were made for a relationship with an eternal God, and that we have in our lifetime a choice about whether or not we want to have that relationship, and God sent Jesus in order to offer it to us. That choice we make at the end of our lives will affect our eternity. That is, to choose to say, God, I don't want you, is a decision that I think God would respect. But God is a good God, and an eternity without him, I think, is just, for me, it's frankly an awful prospect. Because I think he made us to relate to him. So to spend an eternity without that, it's too horrible to contemplate for me.
So I have more to actually say. I might reword some parts of the question slightly. I think there are definitely some things you can say about a certain person after they have died. For example, you can say, what would they want? What would they do? What would they say about a certain thing? For example, when someone's alive, there's really two parts of them. One which is inside them, one which is them thinking and them acting, and another which is inside you as a person who knows them. So, for example, there's the phenomenon of hearing someone's voice in your head. So let's say you went to the shops and you bought some candy and you went, this is great candy, and then you hear your mother in your head going, don't eat candy, it'll rot your teeth. So you have an aspect or an understanding of that person. Let's say you always hear someone mumble. You'll have a different aspect of that person to their own aspect inside their head. So there's those two sides of every person. When people die to someone that doesn't believe in an afterlife, they become what they are in other people's minds. They become memories, which are not just, instances or events. They're entire constructs of people. They are what you remember about a person. And those people aren't really sentient in the sense that they can be happy or sad, but they are there in the sense that they could have opinions on things. What would my mother say about this? What would my father say about this? Would my father like this kind of thing? They still exist in a very real sense that you understand them exactly the same way as you did when they're alive. You just can't contribute more to that construct. So in terms of happiness, I'm afraid that's kind of an agency question that's kind of in their head. And to someone that doesn't believe that continues on, it's not really a relevant question.
To save time, I'm going to limit my comments to what I've experienced in my life.
Okay.
Should we feel guilty for being happy when others near you are unhappy? And how did you rectify that?
Okay. Should you be feel guilty for others being sad when you're happy?
Guilt is optional. You don't have to feel guilty. If you do feel happiness or contentment or something in between, then that's good. That gives you an opportunity to focus on others who maybe need your help or your support or your service or your compassion. So guilt doesn't actually help anybody, but if you feel compassion or kindness to others who may be less happy, they might be depressed about something, or they might have had some misfortune or something difficult in their life, then that's practical, focusing on how you can help them if you can. And if you can't, just wishing them, for a Buddhist, even just the good thought of wishing them to be happier, even if you can't actually physically help them. The thought of wishing other people to be happy and well and beyond suffering, that is a good thing to do. So guilt, all those negative emotions, they're optional. You don't need them. It doesn't help anybody. So if you are happy, that's good. Try to help others.
I think there's two possible things you could do when people around you aren't feeling as happy as you are for various reasons, whether it be whether they're feeling particularly bad or they're just not feeling as happy as you are. Either you can pretend to put on negative emotions until you are depressed or as unhappy as they are, as a sort of act of solidarity that might make them feel at least part of a group, which is a good feeling. Or you can be happy, feel happy, and either help them get happier or hope it rubs off on them. And generally it does. It's like the old experiment where you make yourself smile and it makes you smile. Or you're around happy people and the smile rubs off and it actually does happen. So the best thing you could possibly do around other people is be happy and help them be content as well. Unless, of course, they don't want to be happy. But I love that we've covered both good life and ethics regardless. It's brilliant.
No, I'd say happiness is a gift from God. It's about it's something that He gives to us. But I probably would say there are times when our happiness is caused. So I think Joseph's cause and effect thing is really helpful. There are times when our happiness is caused or brought about by other people's tremendous pain. So we have massive wealth on the back of enormous pain in the third world, for instance. I think that's a happiness that we ought to feel guilty about, and we ought to do something about it. So if happiness is brought about by injustice, brought about by us doing evil, by our own insensitivity, yeah, that's a happiness that's a wrong happiness, I think. And so at that point, I'd want to be saying we need to do right rather than just do what makes us happy all the time.
Okay. Sorry, still looking for people who haven't asked the question yet. So, yep.
Why do people have to find happiness? That's it. Why aren't people like, so say for example, like Joseph said, some people are intrinsically happy about religiosity and stuff like that. Why isn't someone just intrinsically happy?
Yep. So why do people have to find happiness? Are there anyone who's just intrinsically happy all the time?
You've all met people who are called bright and bubbly. They're the kind of people that, as a personality trait, it's not that they are happy all the time. It's that happiness is easier to achieve for them. There are certain things that make a lot of people happy. They're sort of majority things. That's like the whole comedy industry is notionally making more people happy than you're not. So trying to make as many people as happy as possible. But in terms of a single person, is there someone that finds everything in life entertaining or contenting? It's not really a question. Actually, I know how to answer this. Two things. One, there's a dysfunction called hyperhedonia, where you are happy all the time. So there's one answer to your question, quite clearly. There's also anhedonia, where you can't feel happiness. That's a bit brutal, but okay, Sarah. Then there's the other side of it, which is some people are happier more of the time, whether it be lifestyle or personality trait.
I think you've put your finger on something that I was trying to wrestle with earlier, and that is most people have a sense that they're not super happy. They're happy with aspects of their life, but most people have this deep sense that something is missing, something profound, and you see it at key points. I think this is what a midlife crisis is. The way a Christian would think about that is we're actually out of relationship with the God who made us for a relationship with Him. And so something profound that ought to be there isn't. I think that's why people go looking for happiness. I think that's the way the Bible would put it.
So your question is about why aren't people just happy? Is that?
Yeah, so that would be like one cause for looking for happiness is you're unhappy, right? So why do people have to look for happiness? Like, why do we have to learn how to be happy? You know what I mean? Like, why can't we just feel this is what I want to do? This is.
I think I'm reminded of what the Dalai Lama often says. He says that everybody, regardless of religion or philosophy or faith, we're all looking to be happy and we're all looking to avoid suffering. I think it's sort of the human condition that we would prefer, not to suffer. Okay, so I think from the moment we're born, there is this leaning towards, contentment and happiness, and we don't want to suffer, we don't want pain. So every person, once they're born, and let's face it, being born is a painful experience for both mother and child. From that point on, we're faced with a few physical realities. We all get sick, which causes pain. We all grow old, which causes pain. And we all die, and that causes pain. But beyond the physical pain that we all share, there's also the psychological or the mental pain that we all have. Not getting what we want causes us dissatisfaction or whatever. Having things happen to us that we don't like, unpleasant experiences, or being in a situation that's uncomfortable, too hot, too cold, whatever. So these are the things that are kind of the non-physical pains or sufferings. But each of those non-physical forms of pain or suffering can be traced back to, for me, our minds. Our minds are where everything starts. And that's why a Buddhist tries to cultivate the mind and understand the mind. So if we can understand how we ourselves are ticking, how we are responding to other people and the world around us, and can see when we attach to something, or we have fear for something, or we have anger for something, or frustration for something, or anguish or guilt or whatever, any of those things, if we can understand that, then we can overcome this habitual habit pattern that we're all, we all have these habit patterns. We have these automatic responses to the world around us. So for me, it's improving my mind and my awareness and my mindfulness so that I'm not on autopilot. It's living life mindfully and more aware so that I can be happier from first principles.
Now, depending on the length of the answers, we've probably got time for 2 more questions. If they're short responses, maybe 3. So, have you asked a question yet? No? Great.
So we've talked a few times about making other people happy and helping other people. But why should we bother, under your belief systems, to try and make other people happy? Because sometimes it does bring about a sense of satisfaction. But other times it's just tiring and draining, or even we'd be much more happy if we just did things for ourselves and not other people.
So why should a Buddhist, an atheist, or a Christian try and make someone else happy? Is that right? Right.
You want short answers?
No, just
well,
as it comes.
For a Buddhist, we're all interdependent, interconnected. We depend on each other. The fact that we all have separate names and separate lives, to me, as a Buddhist, is kind of a surface appearance